Welcome back to the Indie Author Showcase. I am multi-award-winning independent author Chad Robert Morgan.
And I am Alexander Scott Morgan, here to inform you legally, that half of those awards were actually for participation awards. So I have to legally put it out there. Because false advertisement, all that, you get in serious trouble. Okay.
Only one of them was a participation trophy.
Two of them.
No,
You liar.
I am not lying.
You liar.
No, that's enough. So the first award was the Audiobook Reviewer's Choice Award, followed by Audiobook Reviewer's Book of the Year for Horror. Then I got the Indie Brag Medallion. And then I got runner-up at the LA Book Festival. So not a little bit better than participation, because they did actually hand out, I think, participation trophies in that one.
Yikes! Imagine one of those. Imagine how embarrassing you have to be to get participation. Wow.
Although funny thing, we were reading this one other guy's book, and I don't want to bring it up because I don't want to like.
Oh, you're talking about the real bad one?
Well, the real bad one, or the real bad one that we have here that's autographed. The one you gave up on.
I don't give up on a lot of things.
You gave up on that. Okay. So again, the purpose of the podcast is to elevate our fellow indie writers, not to put them down. So we're not going to name names or say what book we're talking about here. But there's one book that we had, and we met them at one of the cons, and I got it autographed. It's on my shelf of distinguished independent authors that have autographed copies for me.
10 books over there, dude.
It's growing. Con by con, we get a little bit more. And besides 10 of the books, like 5 of them are mine. Yeah.
Even worse.
Yeah. So, but it's growing. Hey, there's a Ray Bradbury in that collection. Come on now. You do know who Ray Bradbury is.
Yeah, I read Fahrenheit 451 in class.
Okay, just checking.
Hey,
I have an autographed copy of Fahrenheit.
When Beatty gave his speech and I was supposed to do it, I popped off, okay? I could be Eminem, dude. I'm just saying.
Well, I have an autographed copy of Fahrenheit 451 in my collection, so I'm very proud of that.
Does he know you by name?
I think he's dead. I don't think he knows anybody by name anymore.
Well,
anyway, so we got the book at one of the cons, and this guy actually had won an award for the book. So I'm like kind of hopeful. Few chapters in, I'm like, okay, I am not getting into this book. And then we started doing the podcast. I'm like, okay, now Alex, you need to go read a book, one of the books for the podcast and everything like that. And I had thought you were reading that book. And so I'm like, oh God. So I start reading it, and it's just not getting better. And then you told me that, I was like, oh no, that book was horrible. I quit. Oh, thank God I put it back on the shelf and everything like that. But this guy won an award for that book.
Really shows you that the standards are not that great. I feel like by saying that, you're putting your awards down, dude.
Well, I kind of sort of am, actually. Because like one of the jokes I have is like, I go, hey, I've won multiple awards, and somebody goes, are they major awards? I'm like, they're awards, shut up. So I think that we should do this for a future podcast where we should discuss what awards are actually seriously legitimate awards. I don't think I'm prepared to do that right now, but that is definitely a topic for a future show. And yeah, for the record, when I say I am a multi-award-winning author, it is technically true. But yeah, I'm not exactly winning the Pulitzer over here, right? So you can't take it with a grain of salt. But I mean, it getting an award is kind of, it's one of the tools an indie author can use to promote his work. Because again, the purpose of this podcast is for indie authors to get their stuff out there. Now, the good news is that in this modern age of indie publishing, anybody can publish a book.
The bad news: everybody can publish a book,
Anybody can publish a book. Yes. So, once upon a time,
including my spiritual successor, the 50 Shades of Grey that I wrote.
right. Okay. So, once upon a time, there were gatekeepers, right? You could not publish a book unless you convinced a publisher to publish it. And most of the time, you couldn't get a publisher to talk to you unless you had an agent. So you had to convince an agent to convince a publisher to try out your book.
To try out your 50 Shades of Grey fan fiction, I guess.
Yep. So there were a lot of writers that basically were living in obscurity. They could not get their stuff. And of course, publishing is a business. If they're not making money, then they're dying on the vine, right? So when publishers take your book, they're taking a risk, right? Because they're going to do the publishing, they're going to do the marketing, they're going to do the editing and everything like that. They expect to at least make that money back plus a small profit. In fact, they actually don't expect to make a profit off your book. If you have a publishing company, they're probably going to have like 8 or 10 authors, major authors. Well, it depends on how big the publishing house is, but they'll have a bunch of authors that they're publishing. 1 or 2 of them is going to be their major cash cow. And that's going to allow them to afford the risks. Because every one of these publishing houses are looking for the next J.K. Rowling, right? They're looking for the next Stephen King. They're looking for the next James Patterson.
I was going to say James Patterson.
Whatever is going to bring the money, right? And they never know, right? I mean, like I said, look at Harry Potter. She was, J.K. Rowling was a complete unknown. I think she was on welfare at the time, if I remember the story correctly.
And now she's a little known. Little.
She's got a little bit of notoriety now.
Yeah. Also a little bit of notoriety. Stephen King. He's
a couple of people have heard of him.
Small indie guy.
Yeah, small indie guy. He has only written about 6-7 million books, I think. Something like that.
Yeah, how did I say Tron does that so quickly?
That's a good question. And considering the guy's supposed to be freaking retired, and he's publishing more books now, so I don't know. Anyway.
Wowzers!
Yeah. Anyway, the point being is that there was a significant financial barrier to getting published, right? The publishers had to make money or they went out of business. That's just how businesses work. So if they were going to take a chance on you, then they had to be at least reasonably sure that there's a chance they're going to make their money back. Now that we're in the indie publishing realm, we're on print on demand. There is no upfront cost to making a book. Right.
I see.
You upload it online.
Yeah.
You hit the button and somebody orders it. It gets.
You hit the button and all of a sudden your Fairly Odd Parents fan fiction is out to the world. You know what I mean? Oh wait, you know what I just got reminded of? Did you hear about the Loud House fan fiction that's larger than the Bible? I mean,
this is what you're doing instead of getting homework done. You're reading about Fairly Odd Parents fan fiction.
No. One. I've never read it. I've only heard of it because it's larger than the Bible.
So
I mean, like 2 times.
Somebody really loves Fairly Odd Parents.
No, I think it was the Loud House actually. I think
the Loud House?
Yeah. I'd have to do research into this.
Regardless. Anyway.
I think it's like the longest work of fiction ever made.
Moving on. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that now the cost of entry is gone, right? No longer do publishers have to do 1,000 copy run, have to get them into the shelves and everything like that. People order it online. It doesn't actually have to have physical copies until they're needed. They hit the button, the computer prints out a copy of your book, ships it to the customer, bada bing, bada boom. You know, all that initial cost is now gone. So now we are flooded with independent authors trying to, sell their book. But now it comes to the other side of this problem, which is um, independent authors also have to become independent publishers. And this is where the challenge lies. So I think I've quoted him before, but Peter Klein, you remember Peter Klein's?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Awesome guy, am I right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no. Both a fan of his work and a fan of him as a person, because he used to do the coffee house,
Right.
the writer's coffee house, and just fantastic guy to
Fantastic
talk.
bloke.
Yes. He would always say that writing is the art of creating a book. Publishing is the business of selling as many copies of that art as possible.
Right.
So when you're independent author, you're also an independent publisher, which means that you have to do all the marketing, all the strategy, the getting your name out there and everything else. So let's talk a little bit about what you can do as an indie author to get your stuff up there.
Right.
Okay. And I'm talking, what is the most cost-effective thing that you can do? What are some of your thoughts?
So the first one, right? This is a real biggie. Social media.
You do have to have a presence on social media. Now, if you are just basically blasting Twitter, that's not going to help you.
Because no one uses Twitter anymore.
Do people ever use Twitter?
No. They use it to go on like drunk ramblings about how much they hate minorities.
Yeah. The point being is that you can't just simply post on social media and call that marketing. But social media is important. There's a podcast, Two Indie Authors, that just did another podcast on Facebook ads. So if you are interested, I would recommend checking out the podcast, Two Indie Authors. They've done a couple of them on how to do Facebook ads. So the problem with Facebook ads is they cost money. And
Much money.
well, that actually is dependent on you. But if the more you put in, the more response you're going to get back.
Right. So like kind of feel like something there.
But well, see, but that's where I'm kind of getting at right now is we're broke as shit, right? So I'm trying to do as much as I can without spending any money because we as broke motherfuckers. So I'm sorry, is this podcast interrupting your nap time right now?
It is 11:15.
Oh my good Lord. I'm sorry. I thought you were 16. You stay up till 2 o'clock in the morning playing video games with your friends, but you can't do the goddamn podcast?
Let me lock in.
Ah,
I've locked in.
okay. So one of the things that I've been trying to figure out is what marketing things work for us. What actually gets us a return, right? Because I haven't actually gotten a good return with TikTok ads or
Well, that's because you don't know the TikTok landscape, okay? When you post an ad, you're not expecting, oh my God, it's so wonderful. You're expecting to get called slurs. It's like, okay, right. Let's look at something that we've got on our TikTok thing, right? Things I cannot say because they include swear words. And you won't let me say them. But it's, very polite people on TikTok. Very wonderful people. Um, you don't really promote books on TikTok much.
I was actually working with somebody from TikTok to set up the ad thing, and their whole spiel, and Facebook isn't any different really, is they're like, okay, we'll run it for like a week and just see what the results are, see who's interested in your stuff. Then we start targeting that group. And I'm like, okay, so you want to run it for a week? That's going to cost me several $100s just to figure out who likes the ads before we start sending it. So to do it right is an investment. And like I said, we as broke motherfuckers. So I have not done this. So, but the one thing that I have done that works for me is the conventions, right? Now there was some discussion on the conventions about whether or not it's worth doing or not. I think like with WonderCon, that worked well because we got the small press table. Like if we had gotten a full booth, we probably would have lost money, right? Because a full booth would have been over $1,000. We only spent about something like 350 for a small press table, so that worked. Monster Palooza, which is coming up in about 2 weeks, we actually have a booth, right, which costs about $1,000. But last time in Monster Palooza, we broke even, right? Partly because we don't just sell the books, we also sell the merchandise we make based on the books. We have our 3D printed Mananangals. That was probably one of the bigger sellers. We have our 3D printed dog monsters. We sold almost as many of those as we did the Mananangals. This year we'll have our Tick Balongs to add to it. And then, of course, we're going to have our big ones. That was what really made our Horror Con because we had the big Mananangal for the first time. We had the big dog monster for the first time. And I had only finished one of each, and we sold both of them. Right? So hopefully we'll get there, we'll sell some books, and the other merchandise that we sell will pay for the booth and allow us to continue to keep doing this and get our name out. What I have found is if you sell 100 books at any convention, you're doing good. Even though we sold almost nothing but books at WonderCon, I think we sold like maybe 2 or 3 T-shirts. Sold no monsters whatsoever. We only had the small glow in the dark. Sold no monsters. So everything else was books. How many books did we sell at WonderCon? Only about 50, which is kind of short for us because every time we've done Comic-Con, which granted is 5 days, not 3. Yeah, it's longer.
It's
but
also bigger.
It is big. Well, WonderCon's not small either, but yeah, big Comic-Con's definitely
More grandiose.
yes, but Comic-Con is also a harder sell because you get a lot of travelers coming to Comic-Con. And I've gotten a lot of people saying, I can't fit this in my bag, or I would love to get this book, but then I only have so much room in my luggage, right? WonderCon was more local people. So people were more likely to buy bigger item tickets or bigger ticket items, I should say, at WonderCon. But my recommendation is if you're an indie author, and again, this is just what has worked for me. If you have something that's worked for you, please let us know because we would love to discuss. In fact, what's the email for the show?
I mean,
Very close.
yeah.
Okay, it is IAS for Indie Author Showcase at spectralinkproductions.com.
I saw it, yeah.
Yeah. Spectral as in ghost, ink as like what you write with, productions. Because when we first founded Spectral Ink Productions, we were very literal in our naming and did not think of shortening that at all.
SIP.
We usually just call it SIP. Yeah. Yeah. But we didn't put that in our email. So now we have Spectral Ink Productions in the email.
You know what you should have done?
Takes like half the keyboard.
You should have named it as a Spectral Ink. You should name it Ghostly Typewriter. And
because that would be shorter?
no, because you write books now instead of 3D So it should be Spectral Typewriter.
Well, but I'm not changing the name now.
Does not, you don't want to change it to Spectral Typewriter. Sorry,
That's
Ghostly Typewriter.
Hey, you quit rubbing your eyes. Thank you.
Ghastly Typewriter, like the Pokemon.
Anywho,
Mischievous Typewriter.
if you have recommendations on how you promote your book, write to us at IAS for Indie Author Showcase at spectralinkproductions.com. But yeah, so that has been with one caveat. The conventions have been our biggest way of promoting our books and getting our name out there and starting to develop a fan base. The one caveat is it's only cost effective if we're local.
So we can't travel to Germany to do those German shows?
I don't think we're going to make our money back. I did this once. I went to Miami. There was a book fair in Miami.
What about the German shows, dude?
What German shows? Why am I going to sell a book in English in Germany?
Well, I think you could. Just for the novelty of selling your book in Germany, dude. Wouldn't that be sick?
Point being is I wanted to spread my name out, so I went to Miami and I lost my shirt. I mean, it was first of all, the Miami Book Fair was the people there were fantastic, right?
Right.
But there were a couple of issues I had with it. One, I had to drive cross country and get a hotel in downtown Miami. So already I got a huge time investment, money investment. On top of that, being it was an outdoor event, we got rained out the last day. So, and man, that's just Miami weather. So, I thought it was
Alligators.
not in downtown Miami, no. So anyway, I would recommend if you are in the Miami area, you do the Miami Book Festival. It was a very positive experience. I would not recommend driving from California to do it.
I love driving halfway across the state, halfway across the country. No, actually, no, full way across the country.
Well, I don't mind doing that, except I can't afford to lose money right now because I have lost so much money trying to do this that we're between that and somebody's medical bills.
Which one of us?
I don't know. It could be the one who's doing the Finn Wolfhard impersonation over here.
I don't think he slits his hair back.
Huh?
I don't think he slits his hair back, so.
No, but it's almost as long.
I mean, I would say that. I mean,
Dude, any longer, people are going to mistake you for Cher. Anywho, point being is start with the festivals that are local to your area, right? Anything that requires you to drive more than a couple hours, anything that requires you to get a hotel room, you might want to hold off on that until you get a little bit more established and you get more of a rhythm going and you can figure out what works and what doesn't work. There are a couple of conventions that I really would like to go to out of state. One is Texas AuthorCon, I believe it is. And then there is like Texas Frightmare in Dallas, which I think would be really good conventions to go
right,
to.
right.
So,
And now, everyone, it is time.
you know, you're doing that and nobody can see you because
Oh.
you switched the cameras.
Oh no! Oh, I'm so sorry, everyone. I know. Looking, I'm not gonna say that. I'm not that egotistical. I'm not egotistical. I'm very humble. Uh, so
Are you drunk? What
no,
the hell is your problem?
no. I'm tired.
It's 11:30 at night.
Exactly. It's 11:30 at night.
Oh, give me a fucking break.
I fixed my sleep cycle. I've been sleeping like a baby for weeks.
Good, finally.
And then in the morning, I chug caffeine like my life depends on it. And
Okay, not so good.
oh, you should see it in the okay. A little bit of context. Science time. 170 pound male, 400 milliliters of caffeine, 120 pounds right here. Do the math. One Bang energy drink, 300 milliliters of caffeine. The pile in the corner of my history class. That's a lot of caffeine. It's slowly building up a pile of Bang energy drinks. Um, yeah. And like for the rest of the day, I'm like jumping up and down the walls. I'm like, oh, that's like, mm.
So let's talk about this week's book, if you're done with whatever the hell that is.
Oh, what do you mean, whatever that is?
All right. So this week's book we actually got from Pubby.
Yay!
So we're probably not going to use Pubby anymore because they tried to bill me like $250.
And then it was lame.
Um, so well, I mean the service itself wasn't too bad. The problem is
The books on they were lame.
well,
They were lame.
we only tried it for about a month. We only found a couple of interesting fictional books. One was lame, one was okay, and that's the one we're going to talk about now. Um, the part that upset me was I guess they tried to bill me for an entire year. But fortunately for me, I was too broke. And,
Yay!
and so the bill didn't go through. So I didn't get charged
Yay!
$250. Um, but so one thing we did find on Pubby was a collection of short stories called Feather Falls, Golden State Stories. So Feather Falls, Golden State Stories is written by a guy, and I hope I get the name right, Shawn Hartje. That's Hartje. So, what I found interesting in this is that this guy is coming from San Rafael, California, which is where I used to work. So I went to school at Sonoma State. I was about 30 minutes down the road. And now what are you doing?
I'm pulling up the interesting part.
And I worked at down at San Rafael when I used to work at LucasArts.
Yay!
Yep.
Lucas did arts.
Yeah, well, that was back when LucasArts still existed, but
Yay!
it, working at LucasArts was fun. They had that big old pod racer game right in the lobby, and every time I would go there, I'd take your sister, and she'd get in the pod racer and she'd go play in it. Oh man! And everyone was set the free play, so she just had no ball doing it. She could only do the easy level because she was like 5 at the time. But
Yeah,
you know,
I get that.
but oh man, yeah, she used to love that shit. That was, and another one thing that was really funny at my time at LucasArts is every year George Lucas would hold a Halloween party. And all these guys from ILM would do some serious costumes, like redonkulous costumes, right?
Like redonkulous or like redonkulous?
Like some of the really good cosplayers that we saw at
Okay.
WonderCon.
All right. Yep.
Yeah. They wish they were this good.
Okay. I see. We had different ideas of redonkulous.
So, and some of the best costumes would kind of take a place of honor amongst the office, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like one year, one guy went in the loader from Aliens. He actually had built the loader.
Right.
So they had the loader sitting in one of the corners, right? Well, one year, one guy went as the Iron Giant.
And he made a real Iron Giant, which was about 60 feet tall.
Well, it wasn't quite 60 feet tall, but he did walk on stilts, and his head came out of the center chest of the Iron Giant, right?
Mm-hmm.
So not exactly life size, but it was gigantic, right?
Right.
So it wouldn't fit in the office. So like they had like the head and like part of the leg and everything like that. And I took your sister to it, and she's like looking at it, and she's like, "Oh, the Iron Giant." I said, "Well, remember at the end of the movie where he got blown up?" And she's like, "Oh." I said, "But don't worry. Remember at the end of the movie, he started putting himself together." And it's like, "Oh, okay. It's because of you sleep, Iron Giant. You get better. You can." And she was all upset because the Iron Giant was in pieces. And she's like, "Oh, but you're going to get better soon."
Anyways, back to the book.
Okay, so back to the book. So I thought this book was interesting. It was a quick read because it was a collection of short stories. My biggest problem with the book uh, was that they all started out really strong, all these stories, right? Like the first one is this girl with her boyfriend at the beach, and he's body surfing, and all of a sudden this big shark comes out. And they're like at a nude beach too, so I'm like, ooh, this is a little spicy. This is going to be interesting. And the shark comes out. And then it ends with her coming up with an ad campaign. I mean, I was like, what the hell? The second book was about a kid living with his father, like in a trailer out in the woods, and he's talking about the local fires, and he's kind of discovering girls, and he's him and his father like catch rattlesnakes and tan them and are selling like rattlesnake hides. And his mother is remarried and his stepsister's hitting on him and all this kind of like really interesting stuff. And then we're like, oh, and now they're talking about this rebellion that they're going to, California is going to hold a rebellion. And I get, oh, okay, this is kind of getting interesting. And then it ends with him leaving his father to go live with his mom. Like it was like, I mean, it was interesting. I was getting there, and then it just sort of,
And the third story is about wards.
that's the fourth one.
Oh, my bad.
The third one, and again, this was interesting. There's this dog trainer, and this lady is like, "Yeah, show me how the shot collars work, because I need to train these dogs." And even the dog trainer is like, "Yeah, something's sketchy about this lady, but I'm just gonna do my bit and leave and just wash my hands." She drugs her kids, her two teenage kids, puts the shock collars on the kids because her kids are so out of control. And I'm like, I like this idea.
That's
I got a 16-year-old. I want to try to.
That's don't.
Well, what was the funny part was the 16 because I think they were twins. The boy, she noticed that he's kind of got his door closed and because he's with the porn, kind of thing. So she hits the shock collar, and so right when he's about ready to, he's like, ooh. So it actually, at the end of the book, he actually gets the control, doesn't take the shock collar off, and takes it with him so he can go masturbate. Yeah, and everything like that. But I mean, again, it was like, and that was like probably the second best story in the group because that one almost had a satisfying ending, right? Um, the mother daughter thing was also going, and she pulls in this employee that the daughter's really hot for, and then that storyline kind of fizzled out. The son getting turned on by the shot caller was funny, and that at least had a funny end to it. So that had half of a good ending to it. But the one that really I think sold this collection of short stories was the fourth story.
Yeah, it's about wards.
Yeah, that one was interesting. There was what did they call it?
Scroll up.
Yeah, I'm scrolling. There we go. A Night at the U Ball. Because when a committee of words at the prestigious University of Syntax.
So it's about wards, quite literally.
Yeah, like the personality of the words are based on the definition of the words. Like the first two characters you meet are Superior and Panacea. And of course, Superior thinks he's better than everybody because he's literally the word superior. So,
That's so real, I think. But yeah, it was unique. Um,
and what was interesting is that sometimes these words would hook up, and then they would immediately have a child, and that child was slang. And then they're like, and then Superior's like, no, nasty slang, and throw the word outside. Like it was a weird story, but I mean I will give him credit for trying something unique.
yeah.
Like
Um,
I dug the fourth story on this thing. I thought this was a really um I thought it was clever, and like I said, kudos for trying something new, right? I mean he took a chance. Um, I think we need a more scholarly brain than ours to determine whether or not it worked or not. This is a short story I think your Uncle Russ should read and get back to us as to whether or not this works or not.
I don't think he would agree.
Well, he is a little kind of,
Old-fashioned.
but I mean, but he was an English teacher. This is a story about words, like literally words with personalities. As these words have been personified. Um, so if anybody would appreciate this short story, I think it would be your Uncle Russ, the retired English teacher
About words.
about words. So yeah,
Pompeo.
this was a very unique short story, and I think this really saved the collection for me.
Yeah.
Um, so I would recommend trying it just for that. Like I said, the third story was pretty good. Uh, both the both the first and second story started out good, but I felt like they fizzled out. The second one almost made it to the finish line.
But I mean, it fumbled a little bit, but that's okay. We accept it.
But that fourth one was a unique thing that's worth trying out. So let's wrap things up by talking about so last week we didn't do a show because somebody got sick, and then that somebody got somebody else sick, hence the occasional coughing while we're doing this.
I'm sorry.
So, which should be a clear sign as to why we don't procrastinate anymore. But the week before that, we had our first interview, and I think that went really well with Todd Fonestock. So next week's episode, we did finally get through his book, and we're
That book is a monster.
well, there's been bigger books. I mean, it's not The Stand, but it's
It's
hefty.
big. It's big. It's nice and juicy.
It is definitely not a quick read.
The joke is that I'm sexualizing the book. Like, oh, it's nice and voluptuous and juicy.
It did have a couple of moments like that.
I don't mean like that. I mean, I'm like calling the book like itself, like the book itself, like nice and like voluptuous.
I will tell you there is one other person I'm looking to get to interview, and that is Scott Campbell.
That is my great Uncle Wes.
No, that your great uncle Russ is not Scott Campbell.
No, I mean like you would love to interview my great Uncle Wes.
Yes, but that one I don't think would be as much of a challenge. Well, then again, he would have to actually use a computer, so.
And you would also have to like your books.
No, he doesn't have to like our books. I don't think Todd's read any of my books to be on the show.
Oh, yeah.
You know, the point is
I
not.
think Uncle Wes would hate your books.
Oh, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
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 Which is
Not as much as my great Aunt Helen. Oh my God.
Yeah.
She I remember one time she talked about like, oh, that horrible South Park. It's just absolutely horrible. It has no redeeming qualities. I'm like, sure. You know, hiding my book. Anyway, But I'm going to try to talk Scott into getting on the show. Scott is one of the owners of the company I work for, my day job, White
So it
Movie.
wouldn't be that hard.
Well, he first of all he's really busy because, and that's one reason I want to talk to him because he's trying a few interesting things. Because he's trying to get his book from first page to finished by
By
Comic Con.
Comic-Con.
Um, so like he started like a month ago. He's got 2 months to go to have this thing finished, edited, printed, and personally, I think he's a little insane. I think he's really not giving himself enough time to do this. Um, Not that he's not capable, but I think he's trying to give himself a very such a tight deadline that I'm nervous for him. But in talking to him, there are some things he's doing and tools he's using to try to accomplish this Herculean task of getting this book from page one to published in about a 3 months time span. So I think that in itself would be an interesting conversation because there's some debate on, as an indie author, what do you need to do to get yourself recognized? And one is to just keep generating books. Like you mentioned how big of a book Todd's book was.
Yeah.
Um, there is a school of thought that you want to keep your books short
Right.
because the shorter the book is, the quicker you can turn them out,
Yep.
right?
And then you can like really just like the know what I mean.
Right. Well, remember we were talked about Barry J. Hutchinson in the Space Team.
And how he just churned them.
He was doing like 3 or 4 a year, like it was insane.
Yeah.
And he was doing like 3 different series because he would do the Space Team, which was the main one, which I think he just stopped doing it one day for reasons. But he must have been about 12 of those by the time he stopped. There were 3 books from the spin-off series. And then there was another new series he was trying, which was the Sidekicks Initiative, which I think only got 2 books done.
Because after the first one, they'd stopped being the sidekicks and just started being the heroes.
Well, I actually have never seen the second one. I think he wrote the second one, but it never became an audiobook, or maybe he just had the cover, but he never finished it, so I'm not sure. But I mean, this guy was just, like I said, 3 or 4 a year, just cutting them. Now, each one of these books were a decent size. They're about maybe 200 pages, which is decent. They're not huge tomes, but they're not short novellas either. They were a decent sized paperback type novel. But I mean, even that is just, like I said, it takes me about a year to get a book done with everything else that we got going on in our lives. So the fact that he can do 4 times as many books. But I mean, but this is obviously a school of thought that Todd does not subscribe to because his book is about 3 times as big as any one of Barry J. Hutchinson's books, right? Because
It's meaty. It's voluptuous.
What was the audiobook, like 15 hours?
Yes.
So that's probably the last write, which was my first audiobook, was 14 hours. I think the Baby Eater was about 10.
I think.
So, yeah, because the downside of writing a big book is then you have to narrate a big book, and
That's a lot of words.
that it's a lot of time. It's a lot of editing if you want to get it done right. But I am working to see if I can't talk Scott into coming on the show and talking about some of the ways he's trying to get this book done. Because I'm suspecting, because again, knowing Scott the way I know Scott, this is not going to be a 150-page book. So he's got 3 months. He's probably writing, and I am just guessing based on what I know about him. I have not seen the book. I have not seen what he's written. I haven't read word one, but I just knowing him and knowing how much he puts into his thought process when he's writing, I'm going to guess this book is going to be at least the size of Todd's book. And he's doing it in like 3 months. That's my guess.
He's
So
better churn it out. He's better.
yeah, I'm like I said, he's busy.
You can't see it, but I'm like.
So, but I'm desperately trying to see if I can't talk him into getting on the show because I think he would have some interesting things to say about this process. But we had Todd's interview last week. We're working on getting Scott next. There's a few other people I want to hit up on. And then 2 weeks from now, we'll be at Monsterpalooza where we get to meet some new people and hopefully get them to come onto the show.
Yeah.
So that's my goal. So let's wrap up by telling what our schedule is.
I don't know it, so you don't have to do the whole thing where you pretend to ask, where you ask me.
How can you not know it? It's the same one as it is.
Oh, dude, because I remember, I can barely remember your birthday, and I only remember it because it's on Halloween.
Okay.
It's a little hard to remember. It's a little hard to forget the last day in October.
Well, the first one should be easy because we're talking about it. What's the first convention we got coming up?
The 31st of May.
Which is
Monsterpalooza.
So Monsterpalooza is May 31st to June 2nd, which is 2 weeks from now in Pasadena. Okay. Then we get a couple months off. We have, in September, we have 2 conventions back to back. We have, look on the bright side. It was almost 3. So, HorrorCon, Creep It Real, OC, and Creep IE are all in September.
Hey, think about it this way. If HorrorCon is as dead as the last one, you don't got much to worry about.
Well, I'm actually a little nervous because HorrorCon turns out to be the same weekend as Creep It Real OC.
Oh.
Yeah, so we have a bit of a conflict there. And Creep It Real OC, it's not a huge con, but it is a very busy con. It's a very full con in Santa Ana, right? So I applied for it. They said no. Then they turned around and asked me to apply again after I had already agreed to HorrorCon. So we're not going to be at Creep It Real OC. We're going to be at HorrorCon for the second year. Hopefully it will be better than the first year. Otherwise, we may not be there for the 4th year. After that is going to be our first appearance at Creep IE in Ontario.
Yay!
Right? That's going to be Creep It Real. Well, some of the celebrity guests that they have already got lined up for Creep IE is like
Sam Raimi.
They don't have San Raimi. They had San Raimi last year at Son of Monsterpalooza, but do you know who they will have?
Who?
Billy D. Williams.
Wowzers.
The Billy D. Williams, and I believe the entire cast of E.T. Scratch that. I don't think they have Drew Barrymore, but they're having Henry Thomas and a few of the other actors from the original cast of E.T.
Wow.
So they well, that's how the cons go, right? The con attracts the crowd by having celebrities, right? So the bigger that's what kind of screwed HorrorCon last year because we didn't have any good celebrities. The really good celebrities were at the 25th anniversary of Halloween.
Yikes.
So everybody was going to that because they wanted to see the cast of Halloween. And we had the one kid that was killed in the 3rd act of the Halloween remake, whose character didn't even have a name or something like that, right?
Wow.
So,
I think we made a little sidetrack too.
Point is, wasn't a big draw. Creep IE's got some big name talent that, some huge celebrities to attract the audience. So
Next convention.
I'm expecting creep, and it's pretty big, right? It's probably going to be the biggest one we've done so far. Like Monsterpalooza is a nice sized convention. Pasadena Convention Center is not huge, right? It's not when you compare it to San Diego Comic-Con, right? Not when you compare it to WonderCon. I take that back. San Diego Comic-Con is probably the biggest convention we've done. But in terms of horror conventions, like just horror only, I think Creep IE is going to be one of the biggest ones that we've done to date. So I'm really looking forward to that. Then in October, we have a small press table at Son of Monsterpalooza.
Yay! Then after that,
After that, I have applied. They haven't written back yet, but I have applied for Creep It Real Festival in November.
yay! Yay!
That was a fun one. That was at night. It was outdoors. We had a fun time at that convention.
I didn't go.
No, you went to that convention.
Oh wait, is that the one I went with?
Yes.
Oh, the big cotton candy.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
See, you went to that.
I didn't remember it, so
You had fun.
against the po. I mean, a Woko did insult me, and I thought it was really funny. He said I had a bowl cut.
You had a bowl cut.
Yeah, the guy when I was like, "Hey, you still have the bowl when you did your hair," and I'm like, "Dude." I wish to be that guy, dude. I hope I see him again. Low key. I don't think I have a. Do I have a bowl cut?
You need a cut. Yeah, you need a high and tight. You need to shave all that stuff off.
I don't think I have a bowl cut. Would you say I have a bowl cut? Oh my god.
So if anybody wants to support the show, get any of our books, get any of our merch, where do they need to go?
Spec shop not no shop spectralinc.com.
The boy learns.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's this week. So we still need a kick-ass sign-off.
Toodaloo.
We're not doing Toodaloo.
We're doing Toodaloo again.
We're not doing Toodaloo.
Toodaloo again.
So until next time, I'm Chad.
Toodaloo.
God damn it, Alex.
Toodaloo.